member over there.
Yes, yes. So I'm sorry for interrupting. We are live on YouTube now.
Okay.
And we'll be starting in another 15 seconds.
Good.
So once again, good afternoon, everyone. Another 10 seconds, and I will take the permission from Vivek and Nandini ma'am to start.
Please, please.
So Vivek ma'am, can we start?
Yeah, you can start, surely.
Excellent. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, teachers. Good evening, Nandini ma'am, Vivek Atre sir. It's a pleasure, honor, and so exciting for me to be at this particular webinar, Ideas That Matter. Ideas That Matter was a small seed that Vivek and I think we seeded it around 8 weeks odd ago. We started small. The whole idea was to interact with teachers, interact with people, share ideas, and hopefully inspire each other. And in the process, inspire our students. We are excited and delighted to say that this is our 52nd webinar. We've touched 80 schools across India. We've gone as far as Calcutta now. We've touched more than 100,000 teachers and many, many more students. So it's been a phenomenal success, largely because of the love that we've got from all of you as teachers. Thank you very much for inviting us today. My name is Atul Khosla. As a quick background, I am the founder and Pro-Vice Chancellor of Shulini University in Kasauli Hills, Himachal Pradesh. I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, an MBA from Janmalal Bajaj, and then spent around 20 years in the industry, 7 different countries, 35 different cities. My last job was being on the global board. I was a global partner and India CEO of a large multinational by the name of Oliver Wyman, which is the 3rd largest consulting firm in the world. So 2013 is when the teaching bug hit me. And I decided that I cannot make rich people richer anymore. And I decided to become a teacher. I enjoy teaching, I love teaching, and hopefully I'll show and exude that in this talk today. Excited to welcome Vivek Atre, my very dear friend, who will be speaking to us today. Vivek is an ex-IAS officer, a TEDx speaker, a motivational speaker, an author, the founding or the brain behind, I would say, the ID Park of Chandigarh, but more importantly for me, a very dear friend and also a professor at Shulini University. So I think that's the introduction. Before we start, I'll request Nandini ma'am to speak to us, and we will then get into the discussion and the meat of today. Over to you, Nandini ma'am.
A very good evening. And I also welcome both of you, Atul Khosla sir, and should I call you sir, or it will be okay if I call you only Atul?
Ma'am, I'm yet to be knighted, and the day I'm knighted, you can call me sir, so please call me Atul.
Okay. And with Vivek Atre.
Please call me.
On behalf of the management, my teachers and my students, I welcome you all, and I feel it's a great honor and privilege that all my teachers and parents and everybody will be joining us in this stream of learning. And as far as my school is concerned, learning at my school takes in many forms and shapes and sizes. And it's a very happy school, very, very happy school where the children enjoy it as a school with a soul and a heart. And what I like about the school is that the children enjoy being in the school. They don't want to go back home. And we are into a lot of innovative kind of process. We are into a lot of creativity. And our teaching pedagogies are very, very experimental. We do a lot of pragmatic approaches are there where we imbibe, our children imbibe a lot of learning through different processes. And they are always engaged in something or the other where they feel that the school is just like a home for them. And we had been in the process of online teaching learning process where the children gained a lot of things and they were very happy to be with us. And these are very harsh times right now, and we have to cope up. We have to sustain ourselves. And when the topic was to be selected, I found this is a very beautiful topic, which is lagging behind right now. Are sharp, they're intelligent, they're into intellectual academic activities, but we need to take care of their mental and emotional health as well. So with that process, I think this is going to be a very beneficial and very educative platform for the students where they'll be all collaborating. We all will be collaborating and learning things. And I hope children take back a lot of good memories and good learning from the conversation that will be there. So thank you very much. And I also welcome the managing director of my school, Vaishali Agrawal ji, my students, my parents, everyone, a hearty welcome to you. And I hope the session is going to be very, very enriching for all of you. And you take back a lot of knowledge from this session. Thank you once again. And now I hand over, and I would like Atul Khosla ji
Yes,
just
ma'am. Thank you.
enlighten us with their thoughts and their conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nandini ma'am. Very inspirational. The words happy is what made me so excited. I got goose pimples. We genuinely believe that happy people are successful. Successful people are not happy. In fact, one of the missions of Shulini is to create happiness of everyone who's touched by Shulini. It's a written mission that we have. So I'm so glad you spoke about happiness, because most of us do not give happiness that much importance. So thank you. And we know we are talking to a very enlightened audience today. So it's going to be very exciting. The format for the day is going to be Vivek and I taking around 30 odd minutes. We'll take you through our thoughts. We'll play at least one video in between, showing and demonstrating creativity. And towards the end, we'd love lots of questions. The power and the success of this webinar will be the number of questions we get. So we'll get to know whether we did a good job or not by seeing the questions and the comments that we get on the right side of the screen. So to start with, I'm going to request Vivek Atre to come and take us through his journey, speak about this wonderful topic. I think Nandini ma'am, you and I will stop our video and go mute for that period that Vivek is speaking, and I'll and Vivek will interject in between, and we'll then invite you as a panelist, Nandini ma'am, towards the end to answer the Q&A. Vivek, over to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Atul Khosla, and thank you very much, Nandini ma'am, for that warm welcome and introduction. Very nicely said. Very inspiring words already, and I also love the word happiness, ma'am. And as we were discussing, I have been very many times to a place very near your home, which is Yogoda Satsang Ashram, where I find a lot of happiness in Noida Ashram. I go there, everybody starts meditating at some point in life. Some people never, but some people a little earlier. I started about 10 years ago. And let us look at this journey within in this webinar. Let us talk about how we can be happier and more successful as teachers, as educationists. I resigned from the IAS 2.5 years ago because I wanted to become a motivational speaker. I speak all over India now, and I would love to come to your school one day. Both of us will come there and meet you all. But till now, we have held, as Atul said, more than 50 webinars already. And this is my favorite topic of finding success within, and creativity also will come into the picture. So I already see about 100 people on Zoom, and maybe more are on YouTube as well. Wonderful to have you all here. And let me say that what is being fought today by us, it is not the battle on the border of India and China or India and Pakistan. The battle for us is the battle of the mind. And the battle of the mind is the battle we have to win. And those who win the battle of the mind are happy.
Vivek, you're muted, please.
Okay. So
you're muted again, Vivek.
Yeah. So to be happy, I tell you that you have to make sure that your mind is victorious, your mind is in charge, and you are not succumbing to pressures, worries, and fears. Let us talk about fears and worries. What is the thing that happens to our mind every day? Most of the time, we worry about things which may not happen, which hardly ever happen, or which are not likely to happen also. I met somebody who says his wife gets up in the middle of the night and she says, what if I have corona? What if you have corona? Now that could be because she has a psychological problem and it's an extreme case. But there are people who are losing the battle of the mind because of overthinking. Now, overthinking is something which leads to disturbance and not success. If I am a successful businessman, or I am a successful IAS officer, or I am a successful teacher, I am successful if only my mind is at peace. If I have a lot of accumulation of accolades and awards and achievements, yet I'm not at peace and calmness, then I'm not really successful. If I look at a leader who is restless, let us take an example. We are on YouTube live, but it doesn't matter. Let us take Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump is restless and also negative. Barack Obama, before him, calm, collected, mature, so beautifully patient. And the way he speaks, the way he carries himself even today as ex-president, totally different personalities. Which personality would you like to be? I don't want to ask you that question, but you can answer it yourself in your mind. Which of the two would you like to be? And I am a great fan of Obama, but I am a great fan of anybody who looks so cheerful and calm in public life. You know, I had a boss. I spent 26 years in the civil service. I resigned 2.5 years ago to become a speaker, as I said. But in my first few years of service, I came across a chief secretary who joined and came to my office premises to take a round. And I had a bouquet of a basket of flowers for him. I gave him the flowers, as everybody does. And he held that and he started walking. And unfortunately, there was some water in the basket of flowers, you know. I didn't know. He tilted it while carrying it. It fell on his trousers. And we were walking and he suddenly stopped and looked and the trousers were wet. And he's the chief secretary and I'm a junior officer. I said, sir, I'm so sorry about it. It can happen. He says, don't worry. This is an occupational hazard. Now, if somebody like that comes to your office as a boss, it shows the kind of magnanimity and large-heartedness a person has. Otherwise, the normal reaction will be to shout, to get upset, to go to the washroom, to throw something. Leadership is not about throwing your weight around. Leadership is about showing how calm you are and cheerful you are despite the pressure. A successful person is someone who exudes positivity despite all the burdens he faces. A person with responsibility will have burdens. A rich man will have burdens. A powerful man will have burdens. A famous man will have burdens. Burdens come with success. But if we are determined to exude happiness and positivity despite the burdens, then people around us become genuinely fond of us. If people become genuinely fond of us, then we are genuinely successful. Because these people are inspired by us, not because we are in a position of authority, but because they love and respect us. Because they feel that this person really inspires us. They come to work feeling that our boss, our teacher, our leader, whoever it is someone we want to work with. That is a sign of a truly successful leader. Now, if we look at ourselves as teachers, purely as teachers, our students are looking up to us. If we become role models for our students and our students want to be like us, then firstly, the new generation will also want to be teachers, some of them at least. Secondly, teachers who inspire will inspire youngsters who are growing to become important citizens of the country. Teachers will bring those values to the students which the nation needs. If we look at our nation and when the values are declining, something was wrong with the parenting and the value in the education system. Our children did not learn the right values. I often speak to parents, and unfortunately, all of us, many of us are parents. We know that the weakest link in the chain is from teachers, parents, and students. In my view, the weakest link is the parents. The parents are critical, they are jittery, they are overambitious, they compare their children with others, they put immense pressure on their children. So let us see how teachers can be role models and parents can be role models. We'll look after this point in the second half of this session. We are already reaching 5:15. I'm going to request Atul Khosla to come in and share some ideas about success and happiness himself, and also show you a beautiful video. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Vivek. I'll first like to bring up on the topic you were mentioning, which is inspiration. I know as a teacher that there is nothing more exciting for a teacher, there's nothing more happy for a teacher than to see their students successful. I think we meet our students who tell us that, oh, you know, sir, ma'am, you changed our lives. And I think that is the biggest gratitude we have. That is the biggest wealth we have as teachers. So what can teachers do? Of course, we are in the business of inspiration. Learning is important, but if we can instill a purpose into our students, a purpose for his or her life, and we can inspire them, then they'll be successful. Creativity goes very deep into inspiration. Creativity, leadership, and helping our students to learn to collaborate. And I think if we can get these 3 or 4 things inculcated into our students will become extraordinary. One of the things which I speak about, Nandini ma'am, is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary students. There is no big deal taking an extraordinary student and making him or her a world beater. The challenge for all of us is to say, can we take that average student who is average in the conventional sense, probably very bright, and make him or her extraordinary? The day we can do that, I think it will be very, very exciting for all of us. I'm going to bring in an example of Aman, a student of ours at Shulini. Aman comes from a small village near Ludhiana. She comes from a lesser privileged family, did her undergrad and master's at Shulini. A very tough student, and you know what I mean by that, a difficult student, didn't do very well. Yes, was okay as from the intelligence context. Joined a PhD program and magic happened. She collaborated with people across the world. She had an amazing leader. Her guide was amazing, Dr. Saurabh Kulshrestha. And she was fearless in terms of the problem she chose she's going to solve. So Aman has today won something called the Young Water Fellow. It's a very prestigious award. It's a UN award. More than 100,000 researchers across the world apply for this award. Aman won it. Imagine small town girl from a small place in Himachal going out and winning this absolutely stunning award, spends 6 months in Geneva, comes back and wins another 25 lakh award from Tata Trust. All the IITians, all the guys from IIC Bangalore, different parts of India are competing against her, and she wins. And mind you, Vivek, this is a presentation. So she's actually competing with them, not just on the idea, but also about the way she speaks. So what has happened with Aman? I think it's 4 or 5 things. She got exemplary leadership from her guide. She was pushed to collaborate with people across the world. But more importantly, we pushed her to think outside the box. We pushed her to be fearless in her ideas and thoughts. And the day that happens, students can create magic. And I think every student in this world can create magic. I'm going to show a small video over here, why I'm so excited about Aman's work. Aman has identified a molecule which when entered water, it's a food molecule, kills bacterial activity by 99.97%. It could change the way we drink water. Who knows? Aman might even win the Nobel Prize someday, Vivek. So if you allow me, I'm going to play this small 1-minute video. Vivek, the world is changing, as we all know. IQ, knowledge are going to be passé. IQ and knowledge we can get from the computer through artificial intelligence. The future is about EQ. The future, as I say, is about our students having me skills and we skills. Me skills are my creativity, my ability to lead, my ability to learn and unlearn. And I'm overemphasizing the word unlearn because whatever we learn today might be absolutely redundant over the next 5 to 7 years. And our students will actually be productive by the time they're 50. It's going to be another 40 years down the line. Who knows what's going to happen? We skills is about collaboration. It's about team play. It's about interacting and engaging people. And these are the type of skills which will be needed with our younger generation to succeed. And this will also lead to happiness and what you call success within. These were some thoughts. I'll come back again after another 5 to 7 minutes of Vivek. Over to you, Vivek.
Thank you very much, Atul. Very good video and very inspiring words. So if we were talking about the mind is something which leads to emotional intelligence and balance if we work on it. So emotional intelligence is the ability to handle people and situations in a calm and balanced manner. Daniel Goleman is the authority on emotional intelligence. You can read about him later. But what I would like to tell you is that a calm, collected leader has high emotional intelligence. A person who loses his or her temper all the time is someone who is not really able to maintain his calmness and coolness. Now, being bright, being intelligent, let's say in mathematics or chemistry or physics, very good subjects, you suddenly become a principal of a school, or you become a deputy commissioner, or you become a managing director. There you have to manage a team of people. I often say that a youngster who passes out of college after 2 to 3 years becomes a team leader, has to manage people from different types of personalities. Emotional intelligence gives that individual the strength and the expertise to manage these people and to do better with them. Emotional intelligence is part of our school curriculum also nowadays in the form of social emotional learning. Now, SEL is something which some schools are working on. And I'm sure, ma'am, because you have emphasized on happiness, your school will definitely be working on this kind of skill. And since you are being innovative in your approach, we'll hear from you at the end again how you're going about it. But let me say that any school which is encouraging children to value others, to possess empathy for other students, other teachers, other, let's say the staff, the gate man, the rickshawala, the person who's driving them or sweeping the road, that person, that child will have higher emotional intelligence compared to someone who is arrogant and pompous and money-minded and thinking only himself. If you are self-centered as a teacher, as a human being, as a student, then you are not emotionally intelligent. All the time thinking about yourself, my benefit, my this, my that, is something which is not leading to success. You might think that a person who has climbed the ladder of richness and success is someone who thought only of himself. But I don't believe so. A company which is growing and doing well is a company which is thinking of society and which is thinking of revenue for all the partners in that company, not only for one individual. A person who is self-centered will not prosper. They have to be shared. Sharing has to take place. Caring has to take place in order for emotional intelligence to succeed. Emotional intelligence also means people skills. So if I have a person who is aggressive in my team and I have a shy person in my team, I need to realize that these two people are vastly different from each other. The aggressive one and the shy one may both be good workers or professional in their approach. However, I need to contain the aggression of the aggressive one. I need to encourage the quiet and shy one. If I scold the quiet and shy one, I don't realize how much damage I'm doing to the already shy person. And in front of someone, if I say something to her or him, then that person is going to mind not the scolding, but the fact that it was said in front of so-and-so. So sensitive human beings will see and watch how you speak to them, what you say, and in front of whom. These are things which show that you are mature in emotional intelligence. Supposing in school and college and by upbringing, we were not really taught to empathize with others. At any stage of life, it is not too late. You know, I have found myself during this lockdown even more to become more aware of nature, more valuing nature, and going out and looking at the plants as if they are talking to me almost. Some people who love their gardens, their flowers, their plants, even talk to the plants. I don't talk to them yet, but I think that they can understand the human being a little more than I used to think earlier. So when we start having empathy for the plants and the insects and the animals and fellow human beings especially, our maturity grows, our emotional intelligence grows, our leadership qualities develop. If we can transfer this to our team, or if we can transfer these qualities to our students by being what we are, you see, our students are not going to learn that much as to what we tell them. They're going to learn more by our example. Same with the parents. Parents who cross the red light and then tell their 18-year-olds who are now driving, please don't cross the red light. They won't listen to them. They are going to follow their example. So people with high emotional intelligence exhibit those qualities which they want others to exhibit before them. They cannot have a lose moment. Of course, we are human. We cannot be perfect. Those who are perfect are not in this planet. We are human because we have some imperfection to work on. And that body, mind, and soul which we are working on, hopefully, is something that will help us. My favorite book is here. It is the Autobiography of a Yogi. It is a book which helps me in my calmness, my emotional intelligence, and it is written by Paramahansa Yogananda, the founder of Yogoda Satsang. And I meditate following Kriya Yoga in his path. You, as a teacher, if you read books, autobiographies, fiction, anything, you will find your life to continue to be exciting and fulfilling. So on a Sunday, take out time to meditate, take out time to read, and take out time whenever you can to develop your own self. One last point that I'd like to leave you with before I call Atul again is introspection. If I introspect as to how was I today, or how was I the whole of last week, even if I'm 45 or 55 or 65 years old, I can improve myself by lessening my frequency of anger, because I realized that I got angry 6 times today and 4 times it was worthless, unnecessary. I disturbed my fellow beings in my family or colleagues because of my behavior, and they also started reacting, and that became worse. And a relationship which goes through these kinds of crises can be improved by introspection. So self-analysis is more important than analysis of others. It shows that we have higher emotional intelligence. We are not perfect, but we try to improve. So in this lockdown, let's not come out the same as we were before or worse than we were before. Let's come out better in many ways, less angry, less irritated, more large-hearted, and more magnanimous towards others. Here you are, Atul, and over to you. Emotional intelligence is increasing by the minute. I can see everybody is getting charged up.
Absolutely. What a wonderful topic. I'll try to, I think before I close, I'll try to bring up 2 pieces of research which were done by the Harvard Business School. And they've been tracking success for 3 generations of students of Harvard. And they also tracked success of 3 generations of students from the ghettos of Boston, the streets of Boston. So there were 2 very interesting findings that have come out, and this is over 85 years of research. The first, which I mentioned, successful people need not be happy. Happy people are successful. So people who exhibited happiness across their careers, transmitted happiness to their children, who transmitted happiness to their children, and the whole generation and the whole family tree was successful. The second finding, Vivek, is that typically people who have a strong community base, people who have a strong friend base, a family base, happen to be more successful than people who are loners. So loners are less successful than people who have a strong base of people to support them. Interestingly, it's not just about success, but people who are loners are from a probability perspective, more likely to have diseases by the time they hit 70 years compared to people who have strong family support. So my thought to all of you would be, build your friends, build that family support if it's not there, go out and build those relationships. You'll be surprised that these relationships that you might think are worthless are actually very, very valuable. They are the ones who are going to make you successful, both in the traditional sense of success, but also finding success within. So with that, Vivek, over to you before we close, and we'll then get into Q&A. Lots and lots of very interesting questions over here.
Yes, Atul, indeed, I agree with you. And somebody's asked the basic question, what is emotional intelligence? I think she may have joined late, but let me answer that before the Q&A. Emotional intelligence is the ability to handle people and situations in a calm and balanced manner. And Daniel Goleman gives 7 facets of emotional intelligence. You can read them. But basically, we don't need to get into technicalities. It is the ability to control your temper, your emotions, your reactions. And once you have said something, you know that words cannot be recalled. So before speaking, when you think about your situation, who is there, how do I say this? That is emotional intelligence, how you behave, how you carry yourself with dignity, with grace, with equanimity, which is even-mindedness in the face of all kinds of situations. That is how emotionally intelligent people are, and cheerful. They are happy people. As Atul will tell you, success is not happiness. Happiness is success, because people who are exuding that cool, calm happiness, they may not have too much of money or wealth, but they are more happy and successful than those who are, not valuing that whatever they have, and the relationships are. So Atul, I think we should get into Q&A because we have.
Let's do that. Absolutely. Yeah. I think we've got quite a bit of Q&A. Let's do that. I think I'm going to pick up Nandini ma'am's question, because she's put a question over here, which is, how do you improve your emotional intelligence, your EQ?
Yes,
what's the best way to do that, Vivek?
Absolutely, ma'am. So the best way is to ponder and analyze, how are you in the crisis-ridden world or in the hectic work activity? Supposing on a Sunday you are very cool and reading a book, very pleasant with everybody, but when tested with a situation, at that time you become restless, or maybe ill-tempered, not you, anybody. It can be anyone, ill-tempered and short-tempered and snappy. That means that there is some point of breaking point where you are losing your calmness, which otherwise is there. So to improve your emotional intelligence, you will test yourself and analyze yourself. And then next time you will be determined to probably react in a better way. Offline, you will make that determination and then go to that situation knowing that you have to do this. There is a very good point in even putting up a small slip in front of you. Be calm, just calm down. Or somewhere on your computer, it keeps bouncing up and down. Or some people put an alarm. I have advocated to many people, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, tell your phone to say, be calm. You remember in Delhi police, Atul, a few years ago, some very bright DIG traffic had put up on the red lights. He had actually mentioned, there was a letter, there was the word be calm. And anybody in Delhi red lights, you know how people are honking, wanting to get through before the next red light. And when he wrote that be calm, it was fantastic. So we have to tell ourselves that we need to analyze and introspect in order to improve our emotional intelligence.
So that reminds me of a joke I once heard when I was visiting Delhi as a kid about red lights. So I asked an uncle of mine, what is split second? And he said, split second is a time between when the traffic light turns green and you hear a honk. So that's split second for you from Delhi. Okay, I think there's a question. I'll also request Nandini ma'am to join us in this discussion. Nikhil Saxena is asking, can emotional intelligence influence teaching and learning? So I'll first request Vivek and then Nandini ma'am to give their views.
Absolutely, Nikhil, it can, because when you are an exemplary person with emotional intelligence as a teacher, your students will not only learn what you tell them, but they will admire you as a person. And even if they spend 1 year watching you teach them, even online, people are being very challenged by this online format. However, there are two types of people, and the two types of people are even evident online. So when you are emotional intelligence high levels and people are learning from you, that means that your EI is influencing your teaching and learning.
There's a question from, oh, sorry, Nandini ma'am, over to you.
Would you like to add, ma'am?
Yeah, but we'll have to repeat the question because how does emotional intelligence influence teaching and learning? See, right. The teacher has to be emotionally very, very stable to be in the class, because sometimes our behavior, our temperament, our disposition is such where the children themselves, now if the children are restless and you are emotionally stable, I think you can handle the situation in a very appropriate manner. It is basically, we are just reacting to the situations. And children know that this teacher will get perturbed if we are going to behave in a particular manner. So you have to control your emotions first, and then only you can control the emotions of the students. So controlling the emotion is when any problem that comes up, suppose the children have not done their homework or children are not behaving the way they should behave, you have to give them a space and time. Why are they behaving in a particular manner? Is there anything that they are not finding it interesting, or I need to change, or today the mood of the children is different? So there are a lot of underlying causes for any particular behavior that crops up in the class. So it is very, very important that first we have to see that we have to control our emotions, and then only we can control the emotions of the students. And if my student knows that as soon as we'll talk, the teacher will get angry and go out of the class, so they'll do it more recurrently. They know that teacher is going to react this way once we are going to behave this. So if we are calm, and first of all, there are certain techniques also, yoga techniques also, which you can apply in your class, which can be where the children can become little mindful, where the children become little conscious, and you can give them some tip. You can give them a quote. You can tell them about some incident where a person has dealt with such kind of a situation. But for that, one's personal reading and knowledge is very important. As a teacher has to be, if teacher knows my class is temperamentally of this sort, so she or he has to prepare the lecture as well as the kind of value education or values that he'll impart in that particular manner. This is what I feel.
So well said, Nandini ma'am. And I think one of the things that we are experimenting at Shulani, Vivek, is how can you bring theater into, or learning of theater into becoming better teachers? Typically, people who are more creative tend to be slightly more emotionally intelligent than people who are, completely nerds, as you call it, or people who use the left brain.
And even music and dance can be there.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Writing poetry,
absolutely.
Anything.
Yeah. So I'm going to pick up Ashok Agarwal's question, where he's talking about the Macaulay system and saying that, how important is Indian culture. Ashok sir, I believe that if you replicate someone, if you follow someone, you can only become a good number two. You can never become number one. And I think that's a challenge with our universities, at least, and also sometimes our schools. So it is extremely important that we start rethinking the way our education system is. We need to recreate gurukuls. I always tell it's very interesting, Vivek, you've come to Shulani, it's very beautiful. We've got like valleys everywhere, we've got flowers everywhere, we've got streams everywhere. But teachers will go inside the classroom, they will pull the curtains down and they will switch on the lights. And I get extremely upset about it. I said, for God's sake, right? I mean, at least pull the curtains up. Why do you want the artificial lights? But I think that's sort of stereotyped. That's in our brain. So my fundamental question is, why should students not learn in outside classrooms. Why should they learn in a boring classroom? And I think we should be challenging these questions, because that's exactly the way gurukuls were. There were places where students could find out what they were good at. And, for the first 5 years, I was reading something about, how the Pandavas and the Kauravas learned from age 5 to age 12. They could experiment. They could go anywhere they wanted, any class, any lab. And when they were at age 12, they would decide, okay, I want to be the archer, I want to be the gadadari, I want to be the guy who only speaks the truth, or whatever it is. And I think that's where we need to sort of bring a different way of teaching into our students. And I'm excited to say, Vivek, that 30% of classes now at Shulini are happening outside the classroom. We've created outside classrooms, open sky, and the students are loving it. And technology will play a great role over here, because now, you don't have to huddle them into at least I'm talking about higher ed. You don't have to huddle them into, a classroom and make them sweaty and teach in that particular way. So I completely agree with you, Ashok. I don't want to comment about Macaulay. I don't know much about it, but definitely if India has to be great, we have to build our system, the Indian system, rather than follow the American or the UK system. Nandini, ma'am, you wanted to say something.
I just wanted to, I'm really impressed the way you have described the place, Shulini University's complete ambience and everything. In our school also, it is a very lush green kind of a thing. And you won't believe, during winters, we take the children out.
Fantastic.
And they are made to sit at certain place, and they do a lot of experiential learning there, and they sit with the teacher and study there.
Amazing.
They are small parks. They are very small parks, and they are just like a hillock kind of a thing. And children will go there, they'll sit there. The teacher is smaller. This is for the smaller children. Even the class 12 children also I've seen do the same thing. So this is where the children are just taken out outside the classroom. They are not in the bordered area, and they are taken into the open environment, and they can observe certain surroundings, because that gives them a freshness of mind and thought. And that makes the teaching learning process very more congenial for the students, because we are trying to pour a lot of things in the child's mind without realizing that how much the child is grasping out of it. So we have to change our techniques. We have to change our systems. We have to change our complete, you can say, infrastructure also, where the children are taken to different places and they are given certain kind of a learning there. All the experiential learning, everybody talks about it, but very few schools actually implement them in their schools. And it is only when you are open in your minds and you are ready to explore yourself, then only the children will be able to do it. So very nicely, actually the British education system has made us clerks. They have only taught us with the intention of making us clerks. We need to apply our own mind, and we need to go back to our own scriptures and Vedas and all these books. And even I felt that there was a lot of hue and cry in the parliament over that a little bit of ancient knowledge should be imparted in some form of the other, because we should never let it go waste. We should never let it die. Maybe some Gita's pravachan or Upanishad, some portion of it should be there in the course curriculum of the students. Not all, but certain things should be imparted to them so that they don't lose connect. Today, everybody, when we talk about to this generation, we talk about Ramayana and Gita, no? So they feel it's a story kind of a thing, which never happened. So that actually hurt the old generation, that because they're completely attached to those books. So we need to give that kind of thought processes to our children, where with an open mind, they embrace their own culture in a very positive manner. It needs to be done.
And talking about again, the British system, I think the Britishers have moved ahead. So I travel a lot to the UK and the US. I can tell you, their schools and their universities are not the way ours are. They have actually moved on, but we are stuck.
Yes.
And we are stuck. So I'm sure with schools like yours, very impressive, ma'am. I'm so excited. Have to visit your school. So I know I have a home now in Ghaziabad. So Vivek and I will.
Yeah, surely.
So let's go into Q&A. I'm into the Q&A section, Vivek. So Archana ma'am is asking, what do you do when you're demotivated? How do you overcome this? I want to speak a little bit about stress. I want you to speak a little bit about stress and all this thing about I've got stress and I'm demotivated and I have to be on pills. So Vivek, a very important topic nowadays, and want really to pick this up.
Yeah, it's because of overthinking, oversensitivity, and sometimes, of course, we are human. We will have our lows and highs. We cannot be constantly positive all the time. Nobody can be that. But it is very, very important to bounce back the moment you start feeling low. If a mood comes, you see, moods, Paramahansa Yogananda said, they are our greatest enemies. For no reason, if we are feeling low, that is the worst possible situation. Of course, if someone said something to us, or we did not get as many marks as we wanted or should have got, or we did not succeed in a particular thing, you're bound to feel low. However, feeling demotivated also means that that spark is missing. And 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line in your teaching career, you have to rekindle that spark, or in any career. And find that spark by thinking positively, not succumbing to stress and overthinking. You see, we know that people are into depression and we don't need to name what is happening and what has happened. What I'm trying to say is a normal person can either fall into depression or become very cheerful depending on the pattern of his or her thinking. And that often depends on the company, the news or information which he or she receives, and the practice of meditation or positive thinking on one hand. On the other hand, just watching TV news and garbage and gossip and complaints. So that is two ways of living. We have to choose the brighter and better way of living.
So one of the things, Vivek, that we have just started, and I picked this up around 7 to 8 days back, is helping in this world, this time, is helping build communities around us. Student to student connect, teacher to parent connect. So one of the things which we've not done enough is a community of parents, for example, at Shulani. And I think what's really happened is that as educationists, and I'm not talking about your school, I'm sure you're doing this, ma'am, we probably don't engage with our parents that much because many times parents are not educated. When I say educated, I'm talking about these type of topics. And there is so much pressure that's built onto the student on or their children on areas which we're just discussing right now. So building these communities right now is actually very, very important. And that's something that we have now started, Vivek. And I don't know, Nandini ma'am, whether you've been doing it or it's something that's close to your heart or not. I'd love to hear your comments on this.
Yeah, this as far as this peer group is concerned, that is already on in the school. And as far as the parent and teacher connect is there, then we have a scheduled meetings and the parents can come and discuss anything, anytime. It's a very open kind of a platform that we have. And we
Fantastic.
Want to make parents party to each and everything that we do. We have special assemblies for them. Suppose the child is performing. So we call them for that. And we want them to be a part of each and everything. But what happens, overindulgence sometimes, nowadays everybody feels that whatever I'm thinking is right. And they want the school to do this. So there the problem comes up. So
Right.
Some kind of a distance is required because overindulgence sometimes results into imposition that you do this thing, my child. There are very petty things which come up from the parent side and we feel that how to handle these things, that why my child is not in the first line, why this. So there the problem comes up. We want parents to be very open-minded and let the child fail. If the child is not coming first, if the child is getting half marks less, all these things should be like, we tell the parents to be cool, don't worry about all these aspects. But we do have those meetings and we call the parents. The office is always open for them. They can come for any problem, any discussion, and they can communicate through WhatsApp or different medias. And we make them party to whatever we do.
So
But
fantastic,
we want that parents have to be a little more proactive with a very positive frame of mind. Positive, I mean to say, where the indulgence is towards betterment of a child and the school, and they think that other person's child is also my child. Not only, they should not be centered around their own. Let them take all the children in one. That is what I expect from them. a little broader outlook.
Thank you, ma'am. Lovely answer. Archana ma'am is saying thank you, Vivek. So thank you, Archana ma'am. Divya, Dia.
Archana actually is a very sentimental girl. So if you
Okay.
don't, if you, what happens is she wants to be first in all the things. So if you don't give her, so she becomes demotivated, and she feels that why I have not been. So everybody has to share the responsibility in this school. No, I cannot be pumping everything on one person. So that way, she is a very emotional kind of a person, and that's why she has put up this question that wherever she's not been given any, she feels that I've not been given importance. But for us, all the teachers are same, and we want to give equal part to each one of them. So
Absolutely.
this is what I'm thinking why she has written this, but maybe
Well, we'll
she
answer
might
her question. I don't see that, but I'm seeing that she's saying thank you, and I'm so glad. That's something I learned from Vivek, that when you're answering questions, mention the name. We all love it. It's also part of being, EQ. I'm sorry, you can't have all the names, but trying to have as many as possible, and picking up every question over here. There's a question on temper. How do you manage temper? You did answer that, Vivek, a bit, but uh, you know, clearly meditation is very, very important. You want to take a minute on how you've become so cool? I mean, you're my mentor, you're my guru, and you want to talk a bit about your journey, Vivek, of
Yeah, so
meditation?
I am a Scorpio by birth. My birthday is 4th November, and I used to lose my temper and get into a very spiking kind of. These days, spike is a very tough word to use, but spikes of temper used to be there, and I used to cool down. But nowadays, after meditating for 10 or 12 years, I hardly ever lose my temper. Very few things ruffle or rattle me. And that is something which I've worked on. I think all of us can do it. Why don't you list down 5 things each which make you angry for yourself later? And if you find that out of these 5 things, 3 of them are worthless, not worth losing temper, eliminate them from your day. And only on those 2 things which are totally unavoidable, only then lose your temper. Of course, it's very difficult to manage, but think about it offline when you are cool and calm. At that time, think, how do I react? And analyze yourself a little harshly. Don't be soft on yourself. You are harsh on others and soft on yourself. That's what human beings are. Turn it around. So be a little harsh on yourself, and then you become better. A frequency of anger and intensity of anger both have to go down. Yes, Atul.
I'm very sorry. There's a power outage here, so if you
No
guys
problem.
lose
I'll
me,
take up some more
Vivek,
questions. I'll take up
and
questions.
you can't see my blushing face anymore. So
but we
how
can
do you
see
make
your sparkling eyes.
Okay, you're a fast learner, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Well said. Well said. I can see Deepika ma'am asking, how can a person control his, her, aggressiveness? Okay. So that was part of anger. So basically, you have to meditate, ma'am. Meditate 30 minutes at least. Take out time early morning, sit down and calm yourself, read some scriptures, and then sit down, watch your breath. That is the simplest way of meditating. Close your eyes. And then there are some more Kriya Yoga techniques or any other techniques that you use. Do those. And when you finish your techniques, sit for 10 minutes more and enjoy the stillness and calmness. I find that this is a lovely way to pass the day peacefully, and remind yourself 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, I have to be calm. You forget. And you forget God and meditation and everything. But then you have to remember it. And
you have
ma'am,
to constantly
go ahead.
remind yourself.
Yeah,
You have to constantly remind, yes.
Absolutely.
And suppose you want to make any change in a child's behavior, same is the case with you. You keep on tracking the child for making a change in his behavior. You just, if the child is, the mother is after the child, or is constantly working on that. So is the case with yourself also. You need to really work on yourself and constantly keep a track. And observation is one thing which is very, very important. If you keep on observing your behavior, and what are the things that make you angry? Why and why do you get angry? So if sometimes what happens, certain situations are there where you don't find that you don't realize that you can control your anger. It is a spurt that comes all of a sudden. But if you can cool down at that particular time and give your brain a time to think a little bit, that instead of reacting in this manner, if my reaction can be in some other form, maybe through pacifying words, so I think that really works well. And
That
patience is
works
also
well.
something which we need to everybody need to have. Although these
Absolutely.
are the words when practice, they are not so easy. You get those spurts of anger also and all this. But once you just calmly sit down and analyze your behavior, why did you act in such a manner? I think the students or teacher, anybody can just bring a remarkable change in the disposition, behavioral disposition of oneself.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, Archana ma'am, another Archana, I think, is asking how to build the confidence of a shy student. Well, I would believe that a shy student needs to be made to speak in class somehow. And each student of the class should actually be brought to speak in front of others. Speaking in front of others brings out the shyness. And if everybody knows that once in a fortnight, it will be my turn to speak, maybe even for one line or two lines, that is good enough. Only in front of 5 people, that is also good enough. So encourage them to speak, encourage them to lose their shyness by being involved in other activities, group activities. Leadership roles can be given to shy students. Okay, now you are in charge of these 3 people for this project. So I also have had shy people in my team and I have encouraged them. Encouragement will definitely work. Ma'am, you want to add on that?
Appreciation is also very important.
Very important, absolutely.
Where if you appreciate a child and build in that kind of a confidence in the child that he is no less than other children, why a person is shy, you need to find out the reason. Is it because he feel kind of a comfort zone in that, or he feels that other people are better than him? So that thing teacher has to really find out, and accordingly she can plan out a strategy to bring out the shyness in the child. And once the children open up, I've seen very children, those who are very shy in the initial stage of life, but when they grow up, they are not passive anymore, but rather they are very active in their behavioral disposition. So that thing comes when there is somebody to push them and keep track of them. So one teacher, if she knows, and when the child goes to another class, they can just tell the teacher, hey, you can take care of this child in a particular manner, so that that child doesn't feel left out. All of a sudden, he has tried to open himself and he goes to next class, a new teacher, a new environment, everything is new for him. Then he comes into his shell. So we have to let his wings to be open. We want that should be done. That should be done.
Totally agree. One last or two last questions we'll take. One is Shalini Singh is saying how to remain unaffected of circumstances and be focused towards the goal to achieve excellence. Yeah, so unaffected by circumstances is basically determination has to be there. Edmund Hillary conquered Mount Everest. He said, I didn't conquer Mount Everest. I conquered myself. What is myself? Myself is the fears and worries and being affected by people and being affected by low circumstances or adverse circumstances. People make magic out of adversity at times. There is a saying, some people break and other people break records when they are in trouble. So when you have that ability to break records, that means that you have that amazing resilience under pressure. And when you're focused on your goal, then nothing can change your destiny. You will definitely achieve it and attain it. There has to be determined focus. And speaking of focus, we can now see Atul very clearly. And he's back. So Atul, we can also hear you, I believe.
I hope so. Can you hear me, Vivek?
Yes, yes.
Fantastic.
So I think we've got one more question left, I think. Tanisha ma'am's question. Would you like to see that?
I can't see it. Why don't you pick it up, Vivek? I apologize.
So Tanisha ma'am is saying there are certain situations when neither our friends would encourage us, nor can we discuss our problems with our parents. In such circumstances, our unconscious mind doesn't even think of meditation or yoga. So what to do in such situations? So Tanisha, firstly, let me tell you that you are human and you are normal. There's nothing untoward or very rare in this. All of us go through such times, and all of us have been through such times where nothing works. Sometimes it is said you sleep over the problem, you feel better in the morning. At other times, it is said you distance yourself from the problem, maybe get involved in some creative activity like music or reading or sports. When you play outdoors, you expend energy and your physical body is tired. Even if you are a lady who has moved on in years, I think you're a young lady. You can play, you are physically active and you expend energy there. You feel better. Endorphins are released. And then in such situations, meditation and yoga won't come at that time, but you will think about them the moment you cool down. So work on yourself offline when you're not in the situation, then you'll get better.
You know, yeah, absolutely. Vivek, there's a very famous quote by Mahatma Gandhi where he said, Satya hi Bhagwan hai, Satya mein hi Bhagwan hai. Sometimes we think we should not share the truth with our parents, our near ones. Try to do that. Trust me, you will feel so much better. You will be surprised about the resilience of your friends and your parents and your other relatives, especially with the parents. They can absorb anything. I've seen that in my life, and it's just amazing. So I would say the courage to speak the truth itself is such a big meditative thing. It's just magical. So practice that. It takes courage. It's not easy, but I think the moment you can do that, you could actually fly. It's so lightening, you know, when you sort of speak the truth.
Absolutely, Atul. Before we request Nandini ma'am, I think I'll just show my book cover also. This is Teachers, my book, Finding Success Within. It might be inverted over here, but you can see the word success.
Yeah, no, it's visible. It's visible.
Visible. So it is about 52 life skills for young people. It's available on Amazon. It is a new book. It came out in March this year. And it is where I have digested or converted all my experiences into 200 pages or so, and 52 life skills which matter for young and not so young people, including what we have been talking about now. So do read it and you'll find it very useful. And also stay connected on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn. You know my name, you know Atul Khosla spelling. So whenever you see us, find us. It is a connected world. So it is not that the webinar is over and now we can't ask questions anymore. You can always be in touch. Over to you, Atul.
I think I'm tempted to pick up one more question because it's close to my heart. Manvi Gehlot is asking, how do we focus on study? So Nandini ma'am, I want you to pick this up. I want to give my 1 minute thought on that after that.
How to
focus on study.
See, our mind has a tendency to dwindle. A mind is always in a motion of waves. So if a purpose and if a goal is very clear, and we just stick to our goal, and it is not necessary that you have to study the whole day round. You can fix up some hours where you can put 100% of your mind and heart and soul into it, and then you can enjoy your life. The main thing comes why the children feel this kind of a thing when they are being pressurized to study the whole day because they have to appear for some competitive examination or they have to appear for the exam.
Right.
It is very important for the students that they make their own timetable, they set their own priorities, they find their own calling, that why they are studying, and it is for their own benefit. And then they should fix the complete structure of their day, and then that is how they should try to study, and that is how they should do it. Because this is a very lengthy thing, and I keep on discussing with the children the same thing, that ma'am focus nahi ho pata, ma'am hamara man idhar udhar bhag jata hai. तो मन ही तो मेन चीज है. The मन has to be controlled at every cost. And how to control it is only when your goals are very clear in front of it, and when you have a passion for this thing, when you develop the passion. And why do you run away from the studies? Because either you are not finding them interesting, or you are finding it difficult, or you are not able to understand it, or the teacher is different, that you don't like the way the teacher is teaching. So you'll have to take everything away, and you have to take the whole charge yourself and try to concentrate and find your own pleasure in your learning or reading process, that will only give you happiness. And once you are able to achieve it, the children will never look back. Once you are able to do from your own side. So don't expect, generally what happens, we start like criticizing the circumstances. We are always looking at the outside world. We are in the process of blaming. That should be stopped. We have to find the calling from within us, that what is my interest? If I am interested, am I interested in studying or not? Is it my call or not? Or the children sometimes are pressurized, or they want to become a doctor, they want to become a chef, or they want to become a dancer or something. So for these children, studies will be something which they would always like to keep it aside. But focus is something where they goal setting, that today I have to do this much, and this is, I should find it interesting, and they should explore on their own rather than somebody else doing it. Once they will themselves get involved in this process of studying and exploring their chapter or their subject, I think they will find it interesting and they'll be comfortable with that. That is what I think.
So well said, Nandini ma'am. I can only talk about Manvi, my personal example. My parents would say study 8 hours a day, but honestly, I had made a small notebook where I used to measure how many actual hours did I study. So I would never study more than 1 to 2 hours a day during my 12th, and I made it to IIT, and I was never a 90 percenter. I was 76% in 12th. So that focused 1 to 2 hours is important. What I would also do, Vivek, is I would break my bigger goal into smaller goals.
Yeah.
So that's one tip, Manvi, for you. If you can't focus, or your students, I don't know whether you're a student or you're a teacher, but breaking.
She's a student.
Yeah, so I guess that. So Manvi, break your goal down into smaller goals, right? You would say that, okay, this is what I want to do today. Because if you say my goal is to get into IIT, or my goal is to get into a medical college, of course, that's a right goal. It's a big goal, but break it down into tangible things you're going to do every day. And once you do that, you will see that you'll be able to focus, because it's important. We've come to an end, Nandini, Vivek. Like I said, time is not in our hands. So it's flown. However creative we are, however much EQ we have, we can't control time. It's been an amazing, amazing discussion. What amazing teachers, what amazing questions. I think even students, asking questions. I'm so delighted. Sorry, Priyanka ma'am, we are not able to answer a question. But we're going to close. And before we close, as I always do, I'm going to ask Vivek and Nandini ma'am to summarize the last thought. But the rule is only one sentence. Vivek, over to you.
I use a lot of commas. So I'm going to give you seven C's of success, happiness, and emotional intelligence. So calmness, cheerfulness, contentment, creativity, and character. And these are the kinds of C's you need. Calmness is your best friend. So go with calmness and stay connected on social media.
Nandini ma'am.
First of all, you said one sentence, but I would like to compliment you. Both of you are wonderful.
Thank you so much.
I really like the way you have conducted the whole program. It is so enriching. And I feel that enrichment is one thing which has gone through all the teachers and the students, those who are here. And another thing is that introspection is very important. Introspection, empathy, focus, and observation, mindfulness, happiness, and loving the world around. Have that kind of a feeling where you are putting others also in your shoes and going back to the shoes, that and contributor, how you can contribute rather than be a giver. Be a contributor, be a giver, and always be very affectionate, and have a lot of softness and good-heartedness for people. Think nice, think positive, give a lot of love to people around. This is what I feel is very important in today's world. And the more you share, and more innocent, and innocence is missing nowadays. Simplicity is missing. Please imbibe that. Keep it in yourself, and spread a lot of cheerfulness and happiness. This is what
Ma'am, should be
what wonderful.
See, Atul, I have gone beyond my words, because you get chance to talk every day. I only get chance to speak one day. So I don't want to miss out on the opportunity.
We'll come back. We'll come back again, Nandini ma'am. My last thoughts would be, bring in purpose into your life and passion into your purpose. I'll end the whole discussion with famous words of Shah Rukh Khan. इतनी शिद्दत से तूने पाने की कोशिश की है कि हर जर्रे ने हमें मिलाने की साजिश की है. Be happy. Don't worry too much. Hakuna Matata, as we heard in Lion King. We all are lovely people. We all are successful. We all are leaders in our own right. Day we are happy, we will find success. Look outside the window and say, what a beautiful day. Indeed it is. Thank you very, very much, Vivek. Thank you very much, Nandini. What a beautiful audience, beautiful kids, beautiful, I would say, teachers. Just shows the strength of your school, ma'am. DPS is wow. And I have a grudge against DPS because DPS Mathura Road did not take me for the 11th and 12th. But that's a separate discussion, right? Have a great day.
You all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we all enjoyed. Thank you so much. And I'm grateful to you all. Grateful. We cherished each and every moment that we spent and we had a conversation about. Thank you so much.